Alright, so welcome back, guys. Not your first time here. I'm Vision here, Boy Team. Guys, in our video, take on our Power Rangers Fury video for you guys. Now, if Power Rangers sounds your instant over there, hit subscribe button down below, hit that bell icon, more Power Rangers content from me moving forward. Now, let's begin. Now, today's Fury video is in regards to Power Rangers S.P.D. Now, Power Rangers S.P.D is definitely probably a fan favorite. I think it makes a lot of heroes top 10 lists, and I really enjoy it too. I think it's great. But I do have a theory here, and it's a very interesting one, because it goes along with why Jack and Z live on the streets, even though their parents worked for S.P.D, and Commander Cruger pretty much at least should know about their existence to some extent. And this is where I'm going to talk about that, because if you look at S.P.D, again, a great season, love it. All the characters are great. Kruger's great. But one thing that doesn't ever make sense to me is, it is said in the episode Sam that all of the Rangers' parents worked at S.P.D and were the ones who created the S.P.D technology for the Morphers along with Kat. So, they were working there. I think it was in 2001 in the Power Rangers timeline. And, they got exposed to all that stuff, and that's why all the Rangers have their, genetic abilities. But they worked there. Now, we know Sky's dad worked for S.P.D. He was the Red Ranger. He ended up dying at some point when Sky was a kid. So, we know he at least stayed in S.P.D., and we can assume that Bridge and Sid's parents at least had some connections to S.P.D., because they were also enrolled in S.P.D. But why were Jack and Z living on the streets, even though their parents knew they were, they knew of their parents' existence? And also, why would Commander Cruger just randomly let them live on the streets if he knew about them or knew their parents? He knew this information. He even goes on to tell the Rangers in that same episode that all of their parents worked for S.P.D. So you would imagine that he would have at least kept tabs on them to some extent, or at least to some extent, were aware that they, had kids or something. Now, we know that at some point Z had an encounter with Kruger that she did not know about when she was a kid. She had run away from school after being teased. She got attacked in the alleyway from a monster, and Kruger saved her. Now, why didn't Kruger save her? Why take her back to S.P.D? Again, he, at least in some way or shape or form, should have known about her, should have known about, her parents. Why wasn't she, brought in by Kruger for protection, or just to be taken care of? And here goes to my theory. And my theory comes down to the fact that Kruger ended up murdering their parents. And that's why they're living on the street. Now, we know Jack states that, his parents are mercenaries. And to some extent, you would imagine, since Z and Jack are friends, their parents to some extent probably were close as well. Again, they both worked for S.P.D. So maybe Z's parents were also mercenaries. Now, what do mercenaries do? They all go out, and do covert military operations. Now they worked for S.P.D. What if Kruger sent them out on a mission and end up killing them? Why would Kruger, let them live on the streets, or how did they even end up on the streets? Again, Jack mentions it. You can kind of put it in a throwaway line that his parents were mercenaries. So where are they now? Why is he living on the street? Again, his parents worked for S.P.D. Why wouldn't he say, hey, we're going on this mission, Kruger, take care of our kid while we're gone? Same with Z if her parents are mercenaries. It doesn't really make sense unless Kruger intentionally had their parents killed in that order to make them live on the streets. And that's how history had to play out. We know Kruger isn't above, making history play out the way it's supposed to. We saw it in the Dino Thunder team up, where he even wiped his own memory of the past before going back into the future to make sure that the history would stay in line. They did the same thing when the Dino Thunder Rangers came to the future. They sent them back. So we know that he is, okay with letting things play out the way they're supposed to in order to keep the timeline, the way it's supposed to be. So maybe, Jack and Z were always meant to be on the streets, but certain events had to happen for that to happen. Like, again, now you could argue that Z ran away and, I don't know, her parents looked for her but then gave up. Again, she was only a kid, I guess around the age of, 10. And your parents are just going to, not look for your kid. You'd imagine, and from what it looks like at least, that Z lived in New Tech City. You would imagine Kruger would have at least seen photos of something like that. Maybe their parents would have gone to Kruger for help because, it's a police organization. Why didn't anything like that happen? Maybe Kruger had their parents killed. And that's how that was always how history was supposed to play out. Honestly, I kind of like this idea because I feel like it gives a lot more darkness to PR. It adds more layers to Kruger's character. I think that these kind of things are interesting because you can always add your own interpretation to it. And what happened, especially with something like this, because it always is a what happened, what if. And this is one that recently I come to think about, Kruger knew their parents. Why did he let them live on the streets? He knew about them, presumably. He knew their parents again, so presumably he would be aware that they had kids and that the Rangers were their kids. I don't believe that they all worked on the S.P.D technology. After the accident happens, they all went their separate ways. I mean, that definitely is a possibility, maybe due to the fact that there was that accident. Kruger and them had, this whole, setup and, certain members of their family were, killed or whatever in order to hide what happened. Maybe some people, signed an NDA and others didn't. Maybe, Sky, Sid, and Bridges' parents signed NDAs to not share what happened, while Z, Jack, and Sam's parents didn't sign the NDAs and ran away. Something like that. Because that also goes into, why is Sam homeless? He's living on the street and he's 8 in S.P.D. and the young Sam. He's 8 in PR or in that timeline? How come he's living on the street? Where's his parents? Again, you're not telling me that there's no wanted poster. Why didn't Kruger ever pick this kid up before now? You're telling me he didn't notice? Especially when Jack and Z and Sam, who are living on the street, have these genetic abilities. I feel like that would come back as to S.P.D, something's going on, these kids. Again, maybe Kruger's trying to hide what happened. Maybe Kruger killed their parents because they were going to be a whistleblower. I feel like there's a lot of different possibilities here. And it just is a good way to open up the world to different things. Kruger has a, interesting past and unique things that happened to him. And maybe this just adds to some layers to the character. I think it'd be an interesting aspect. We'll never know because, S.P.D's long gone. We'll probably never go back to that season except maybe in comic book form. But those are just my thoughts and opinions. Let me know yours. What do you think happened to Jack and Z's parents? Do you think that they just went missing? Do you think they're dead? Do you think Kruger killed them? Would you like it or think the idea of Kruger actually intentionally having their parents killed in order to preserve the timeline is an interesting theory? Do you like that theory? Do you not like that theory? Do you have your own theory as to what happened to their parents? Let me know all that good stuff in the comment section down below. So yeah, guys, those are my thoughts, opinions regarding the Power Rangers S.P.D theory as to what happened to Jack and Z's parents. As always, if you guys want a big thumbs up and share, don't forget to hit subscribe button down below, hit that bell icon, there's more Power Rangers content from me, moving forward. And you can follow me on Twitter, linked best section of my YouTube channel. As always, I'm Vision here, One Entertainment, and I'll see you next time.